So, coming up today, a record-breaking trip was set by a multi-talented lady. Actually, a round-the-world trip. A famous French painter was born. It's also, guess who? My mom's birthday today. There's more, guys. Keep watching. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Abigail Afiesimama. If you're a subscriber, thanks for your support. If you're a returning visitor, I appreciate you dropping by once again. Why not subscribe so that you'll receive updates of my video uploads? If you're here for the first time, welcome to my channel, where I discuss events that occurred on this day in history with a view to informing, hopefully entertaining, and most importantly, learning lessons from positive events and mistakes of the past, and hopefully not repeating those mistakes. Because as the saying goes, history tends to repeat itself. So guys, let's get cracking with today's important events as recorded in history. First, we shall start with, yes, the artist who I mentioned earlier. His name is Claude Monet, and he will soon be revealed as I roll down my blind. So November 14th is the day, 1840 is the year. The artist revealed here is Claude Monet. Full name, Oscar-Claude Monet, French painter, founder of French Impressionist painting, and the most consistent and prolific practitioner of the movement's philosophy of expressing one's perceptions before nature, especially as applied to plein air landscape painting. The term Impressionism is derived from the title of his painting, Impression, Sunrise, or Soleil, Levant in French, which was exhibited in 1874 in the first of the independent exhibitions mounted by Monet and his associates as an alternative to the Salon de Paris. So again, this is Claude Monet, famous French Impressionist painter, born on this day in 1840. This is his Impression Sunrise painting. So this painting is where we get the name Impressionism, because the title of this painting is Impression Sunrise. So you can see that it was all about creating an impression. It says expressing one's perceptions before nature. So that's what Claude Monet sought to do, and those, of course, who were Impressionist painters as well. Okay, there's more. So this is one of his paintings as well. Painting of a park, and one of my favorites of his, boats at Argenteuil. Landscape painting, no seascape, another seascape. It seems to be quite au fait with painting seascapes, and quite good as well. It is seascape. So Claude Monet, the other paintings on the internet, so you can check him out if you haven't heard of him before, or if I've reminded you of him after so many years, so many decades. Yes, Claude Monet, French Impressionist painter, was born on this day in 1840. So that would be 180 years ago, if my maths serves me right. 180 years ago. Okay, 1889, 49 years later, we're in India, and Jawaharlal Nehru, forgive me if I pronounce that wrong for those of you who are Indians, and you guys obviously know the correct pronunciation. But Jawaharlal Nehru was an Indian independence activist and subsequently the first Prime Minister of India, as well as a central figure in Indian politics. Both before and after independence, he emerged as an eminent leader of the Indian independence movement, serving India as Prime Minister from its establishment in 1947 as an independent nation until his death in 1964. He was also known as Pandit Nehru due to his roots with the Kashmiri Pandit community, while Indian children affectionately knew him as Chacha Nehru, which means Uncle Nehru. Okay, interestingly, Children's Day is celebrated in India on the 14th of November, as you can see from this picture here. For those of you who can see this again, I'm going to read out what's written here. So there's a quote by Jawaharlal Nehru. There's also a picture of him in sepia. So, and then there's a red rose attached to one of his buttons. So it says, freedom brings responsibilities and burdens, and we have to face them in the spirit of a free and disciplined people. So again, born on this day in 1889, Jawaharlal Nehru. Right, let's move on to the United States. The same year, the same day, and this lady, better known as Nellie Bly, her full name and her real name was Elizabeth Cochran Seaman. She was born on the 5th of May, 1864, and died on the 27th of January. Now, this is the lady who set the round the world record. So she died January 27th, 1922, but not before setting a new round the world record. So listen up, guys. So she is known by her pen name. So the name Nellie Bly is her pen name. She was an American journalist, okay, industrialist, inventor. I did tell you she was multi-talented, and she was also a charity worker who was widely known for her record-breaking trip around the world in 72 days in emulation of Jules Verne's fictional character Phileas Fogg, and an expose in which she worked undercover to report on a mental institution from within. Now that is called true and proper investigative journalism. You know, you disguise yourself and go and live amongst the people who you want to write about to get the truth out of them. You know, I wonder how many people do that these days, you know. Anyway, I did tell you she was multi-talented. She was a pioneer in her field and launched a new kind of investigative journalism. So she did an expose in which she worked undercover to report on a mental institution from within. It makes me chuckle each time I read that, you know. So anyway, so that's Nellie Bly, who went on a record-breaking trip, or set a record on this day in 1889 after she circumnavigated the world in 72 days. 72 days. Okay, 1915, born on this day, or died at the age of 59, I beg your pardon. Educator, reformer, first president, and principal developer of Tuskegee Normal and Industrial Institute, now Tuskegee University. His name, Booker T. Washington, the most influential spokesman for African Americans in the late 19th and early 20th century, died at the age of 59. Full name Booker Taliaferro Washington, was born on the 18th of April. Oh, that's interesting. That happens to be my son's birthday. And died on my mom's birthday, November 14, 1915. How interesting. He was also an educator, author, orator, and advisor to multiple presidents of the United States. Between 1890 and 1915, Washington was the dominant leader in the African American community and of the contemporary Black elite. Washington was from the last generation of Black American leaders born into slavery and became the leading voice of the former slaves and their descendants. They were newly oppressed in the South by disenfranchisement and the Jim Crow discriminatory laws enacted in the post-Reconstruction Southern states in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Washington was a key proponent of African American businesses and one of the founders of the National Negro Business League. His base was the Tuskegee Institute, a historically Black college he founded in Tuskegee, Alabama. As lynchings in the South reached a peak in 1895, Washington gave a speech known as the Atlanta Compromise, which brought him national fame. He called for Black progress through education and entrepreneurship rather than trying to challenge directly the Jim Crow segregation and the disenfranchisement of Black voters in the South. Now, this is where I doff my hat for this guy, Booker T. Washington. He wasn't all about, go out to the streets and violently protest to get your voices heard. That's fine. That's all well and good. It's good to protest and protest peacefully. But more importantly, educate yourself. But Marley said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. I think that is the main thing that's holding people of color down. Okay? A lot of us seem to still be mentally enslaved. The physical chains have long gone. It's 4 centuries ago. I know there's some sort of slavery going on today in our modern age. But the slavery that actually is more sinister is it's a mental one, the mental slavery, where you're always fighting for your rights, but you're not doing anything to improve your own lot as a person, personally. So we need to educate ourselves. As we educate ourselves, we get into better positions, we get better jobs. That gives us leverage to change things, just makes things easier, And those around us, those who think that we're less than them, they look at us differently. They begin to respect us, they begin to value us as well, because we have valued ourselves first. It's not about rioting, it's not about protesting all the time. Go to school, educate yourself, push yourself to the highest heights that you can achieve. It doesn't always have to be education in the formal sense of the word. You can educate yourself in so many different ways. Today, you can go online and look for information. Almost anything that you want is online. Okay, so yeah, hats off to Booker T. Washington for saying education is the way out. Now, I'll carry on. Washington mobilized a nationwide coalition of middle-class Blacks, church leaders, and white philanthropists and politicians with a long-term goal of building the community's economic strength and pride by a focus on self-help and schooling. With his own contributions to the Black community, Washington was a supporter of racial uplift, but secretly he also supported court challenges to segregation and restrictions on voter registration. Okay, so that's quite a long bio of Booker T. Washington, well-deserved as well. Educator, reformer, died on this day in 1915. Let's move on to the year 1922. Born on this day, Butrus Putrusgali, pictured here. Who was Butrus Putrusgali? He was an Egyptian politician and diplomat who was the 6th Secretary General of the United Nations from January 1992 to December 1996. An academic and former Vice Foreign Minister of Egypt, Putrusgali oversaw the United Nations over a period coinciding with several world crises, including the breakup of Yugoslavia and the Rwandan genocide. He went on to serve as the first Secretary General of the Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie from the 16th of November 1997 to the 31st of December 2002. Butrus Putrusgali was born in Cairo, Egypt on the 14th of November 1922 into a Coptic Christian family. His father, Yusuf Putrusgali, was the son of Putrusgali Bey, then Pasha, also his namesake, who was Prime Minister of Egypt from 1908 until he was assassinated in 1910. His mother, Safila Mikhail Cherubim, was daughter of Mikhail Cherubim, who lived from the year 1861 to 1920. He was a prominent public servant and historian. Putrusgali graduated from Cairo University in 1946. He received a PhD in international law from the University of Paris. Died February 16th, 2016 at the age of 93 in Cairo, Egypt. Okay, so that is Butrus Putrusgali, former United Nations Secretary General. Let's now move on to the year 1935. On this day, King Hussein, pictured right here, was born. His reign was from 1953 to 1999. It marked the shaping of the modern Kingdom of Jordan. Full name Hussein bin Talal, reigned as King of Jordan from the 11th of August 1952 until his death on the 7th of February 1999. As a member of the Hashemite dynasty, the royal family of Jordan since 1921, Hussein was a 40th generation direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. Hussein, a constitutional monarch, started his rule with what was termed a liberal experiment, allowing, in 1956, the formation of the only democratically elected government in Jordan's history. A few months into the experiment, he forced that government to resign, declaring martial law and banning political parties. Jordan fought 3 wars with Israel under Hussein, including the 1967 Six-Day War, which ended in Jordan's loss of the West Bank. So, happy birthday, happy posthumous birthday, King Hussein of Jordan. Born on this day in 1935, died 7th February 1999. And now, presenting my dear mother, born on this day in 1945. Her name, Dr. Abigail Afiesimama. This is my mother, who celebrated her 75th birthday today, the 14th of November 2020. She was the first female administrator of the old River State of Nigeria. She's a retired linguist, retired university lecturer. In the United States, you'd call her a professor. Daughter of Wilberforce Edward Alagwa, MBE, the former state commissioner of the Old River State, and Elizabeth Ebun Alagwa Nee Garrick. Now, with the Garrick family, I'll show you something very soon on Wikipedia. She also served as one of the directors of the Women's Commission in River State in the mid-1990s. Okay, so aside from all the accolades that, the achievements she's had, at the end of the day, she is my mom. She's our mom. Mom to 5 biological children and hundreds of other children. She taught for decades, universities and colleges, mainly in the southern part of Nigeria. Studied in the United Kingdom, in Nigeria. I think she played netball at one point in Sierra Leone. She represented Nigeria, so she was quite sporty in her younger days. What else about my mom? She is a very kind woman, She's a very kind woman. She is happy most of the time, easygoing, doesn't take life too seriously. These are things that I have gotten from her, You have to be strict, yes. You have to be serious about life, but do not take life too seriously. She's also very humble, very humble, in spite of her achievements, in spite of the fact that there are not many female PhD holders on the planet, not just to talk about Nigeria or from her village or her state. She remains humble. She can relate to anyone from any background, So that's my mother. Very proud of her. Wishing her a long, healthy life. That's what a 75-year-old woman looks like. It's unbelievable. She looks so young. She looks so young. She puts me to shame, Anyway, so a bit more about her mother's side of the family. I did find an article on Wikipedia. So I'm just going to show you a bit of that here. So this guy, Stanley Garrick, is actually her grandfather. Is her grandfather? Yeah, her grandfather. Let me see. I hope I got this right. Or is this a great grandfather? Anyway, so you can read what's here. Well, I'm going to show you. So he was actually originally from Sierra Leone, and he was a courtier. I think this is a great grandfather actually. He was a courtier in the Oba of Benin's palace, the 37th Oba of Benin, Oba Akenzwa, His Royal Highness Oba Akenzwa. So you can go check this out in your own time. Just want to show you where her name is mentioned here. So over here, I'm going to minimize this slightly so that you can see the whole thing. I go back. Right, okay, so descendants of this guy. Among Gary's descendants are several grandchildren who have also dedicated themselves to public service. They include His Lordship Stanley Shenkwalago, so that's my mom's brother, a retired justice of the Nigerian Supreme Court, an officer of the Order of the Federal Republic. His Excellency Kayode Ralph Garrick, that's my mom's cousin, Grand Cross of the Order of Rio Branco, former Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Nigeria to Brazil. Dr. Chike Guam, International Practitioner of Pediatric and International Medicine. He lives in the United States, Chicago. Been to his house. I've visited all these people. I am close to every single person who's mentioned here. And last but not least, my mother, Dr. Mrs. Of course, she was married to my dad, Abigail Afiesimama, Nee Alagwa. So Alagwa, obviously, was her dad's name. And her dad was given an MBE by the Queen of England. Must have been around the independence of Nigeria. Because he was one of those, he was an education officer as well. I did fail to mention, he was an education officer for the southern region of Nigeria. So again, happy birthday to Mom. We all love you. Hopefully you get to see this one day. I may send you this video actually. So happy birthday to my mom. She's a grandmother. Eldest grandchild, I think, is 18 now. Going to be 19 early next year. So yeah. Let's move on to the next person. He happens to be a prince from the United Kingdom, the son of Queen Elizabeth, who incidentally I've named my daughter after as well. My daughter was born a day before her, 20th of April. But this is, I call him Bonnie Prince Charles, heir apparent to the British throne. Born on this day in 1948, Prince Charles marks his 72nd birthday today. He's the eldest child of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. Born on this day, Prince of Wales, Charles Philip Arthur George is the eldest child of Elizabeth II. I mentioned that already. He has been Duke of Cornwall and Duke of Rothesay since 1952. I didn't know he was Duke of any other place apart from Cornwall. That's interesting. And he is the oldest and longest serving heir apparent in British history. Wow. He's also the longest serving Prince of Wales, having held that title since 1958. So happy birthday, His Royal Highness. Is that appropriate? Being addressed as His Royal Highness, a prince? I don't know. Well, happy birthday, Prince Charles, heir apparent to the British throne. He's 72 today. I call him Bonnie Prince Charles. So happy birthday, sir. Many happy returns to you. Okay, let's move on to the next event. On this day, the year is 1962, we're in Eritrea. This was the day that Eritrea was made a province of the Ethiopian Empire. You can see the country of Ethiopia to the south of Eritrea. So 1962, the Ethiopian Parliament and the Eritrean Assembly voted unanimously for the abolition of Eritrea's federal status, making Eritrea independent since 1993, a simple province of the Ethiopian Empire. So, like I said, they have since regained their independence. They've been independent since 1993. A few more pictures. So that's Asmara, the capital of Eritrea. Beautiful, beautiful, calm, looks like a very calm and tranquil city. A few more pictures. So this is downtown Asmara. I'm amazed. I'm actually amazed. Wow. So pictures, another picture of Asmara, capital of Eritrea. More pictures. Beautiful city. Beautiful city. Okay, so let's move on to the year 1969. On this day, Apollo 12 was launched. The second moon landing. Hardly anyone talks about the second moon landing. But on this day, Apollo 12 was launched carrying a crew of Charles Conrad Jr., Richard F. Gordon Jr., and Alan L. Bean. 5 days later, the mission made the second landing on the moon. 3 years later, in 1972, stock market, historical day in the stock market. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed above 1,000 for the first time. So the year is 1972. Let's see if we can locate the year on this graph. So 1960 here, 1970 is here, and then look at the 1,000 mark. So obviously divide 5,000 by 5, that's 4,000, 3,000, 2,000, 1,000. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So go on to 1970, and then 1972 would be a bit here. So this is a point where it crossed the 1,000 mark for the first time. Of course, it rose gradually, and then poof, things went haywire. So history was made on this day when the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed above 1,000 for the first time. In 2002, chosen to succeed Richard Gerhardt as leader of the Democratic Party in the United States House of Representatives, guess who? Nancy Pelosi of California became the first woman to be named leader of either party in either House of Congress. Nancy Patricia Pelosi was a politician an American politician serving as Congresswoman from California and the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. Don't know what happened there, guys. Forgive me. A member of the Democratic Party, Pelosi is the only woman in United States history to serve as Speaker and highest-ranking female elected official in the United States history. She is also the Dean of California's congressional delegation. As House Speaker, Pelosi is second in the presidential line of succession after the vice presidents. 2014, on this day, 6 years ago, the sad news, American politician pictured here, Jane Burney, who was the first woman to serve as mayor of Chicago, 1979 to 1983, died at the age of 81. Her full name was Jane Margaret Burney, née Burke. Born on the 24th of May 1933, she died, of course, November 14th, 2014. She was the first woman to be elected mayor of a major city in the United States. She served as the 50th mayor of Chicago from April 16th, 1979 until April 29th, 1983. So it seems that the 14th of November, a lot of women who made history were born on this day, either born on this day or died on this day. 2020, there's O'Connor, sadly passed on. So the British people would know him very well. Don't expect many Americans to know or have heard of him or anyone outside the United Kingdom. So full name, Desmond Bernard O'Connor, CBE, Commander of the British Empire. He was born on the 12th of January 1932, died today, 14th November 2020. He was an English comedian, singer, and television presenter. He was a long-time TV chat show host, beginning with the Des O'Connor Show in 1963, which ran for 10 years. He also presented game shows, including Take Your Pick from 1992 to 1999, and a long-running Channel 4 game show Countdown for 2 years between 2007 and 2008. O'Connor recorded 36 albums and had 4 top 10 UK singles, including a #1 hit with I Pretend, with global sales of more than 16 million records. Wow, so it was more widely known than I thought. Well known for his friendship with comedians Morecambe and Wise, his singing ability was often light-heartedly mocked on their show, with O'Connor taking part in the sketches. On that note, folks, on that sad note, this man brought smiles and laughter to millions and millions of people, not just in the United Kingdom, but the world over. He will be sorely missed. Farewell, Des O'Connor. On that note, guys, we have come to Today in History. It was a jam-packed one. I don't think I've crossed the 30-minute mark on any of my Today in History broadcasts. So anything for my mom. So guys, thank you for dropping by. I shall see you tomorrow, November 15th, for another edition of Today in History. My name once more is Abigail Afiesimama. Stay safe, guys. Stay out of trouble, and I shall see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.